Hey guys, Brian here. Welcome back to Soul Speak Visions. Today I kind of wanted to speak on sobriety, a little bit about sort of my experience with dependency issues, sort of the problems that arose from years of, just having dependency with drugs and alcohol, and sort of also the process of becoming sober and what sobriety really means to me, because I feel like it's a beautiful thing and definitely a blessing in my life. um I'm just going to try to make this short as possible because I want to focus more on sobriety, but to put it simply, I started smoking pot around the age of 17. I started smoking pot daily by 18. At one point, I was smoking pot, it seemed like every hour, multiple times a day. It was a complete immersion with marijuana. And I think this arose out of my own personal sort of tendency to either go all in on something or to not go in at all. That's the reason I didn't succeed at school, but that's also the reason that, I've been able to do things in my creative life that I never would have thought possible. But speaking on, sort of my dependency issue, my main drug of choice was marijuana. And um, from the age of 17 until 22, I smoked marijuana. 4 of those years, I smoked pretty much daily. It was not just something that I did, but it literally was my life for a few years. It's something that I fit every stereotype of the typical stoner. You know, I would educate myself, and I would, publicly, say that, it was the greatest thing ever, that it could heal all ailments, and that, it was just so important and such a good thing, and I was very proud. What I failed to realize is that, while there are some benefits to, marijuana in a medicinal context, I took it way too far, and I took it to a place where it didn't need to go. There's no good reason to sit around all day and, smoke pot until you can't tell reality from your own, stoned fantasy world. It was most definitely a psychological sort of dependency on my part. You know, I realize you can't really get physically addicted to that. That's not what I'm saying, but psychologically, I was very much, I had to have my pot. And, that just sort of became my life. And it's just silly now thinking about it. But then again, I had to go through that experience to learn about myself. And I definitely was running away from certain shadows. And, it came through as a dependency issue. A few times I tried to quit. And it's usually a good indicator if you yourself feel that it's time to quit, then chances are it is time to quit, or at least, stop, with doing something, to the point of excess. Moderation, I think, should have been practiced at that point in my life. I'm speaking, the years between 18 and 21 mostly. But moderation was most definitely not practiced. And, because of that, I became really a person that really needed this drug. And no matter what dependency that is, or drug, or toxin, that's never a healthy situation. You should be able to freely detach yourself from anything at any time. And, the feeling that I constantly had to be stoned, it became a burden and a stress in my life. And no matter how much I tried to cut back or quit, it never really seemed to work. I haven't smoked pot since February of last year, so it's coming up on a year. I know that I will never smoke pot again. The simple reason for that is because I have had many panic attacks due to pot smoking, a lot of anxiety as a direct result of pot smoking, and it's just not a good situation. Even before I quit, those 6 months before I quit, I had slowed down enough, because of anxiety. So basically, my own mental illness sort of pushed the envelope and made me choose. And I can happily say to this day that I think it was the right choice giving up pot, because I no longer have full-fledged anxiety panic attacks. I still have anxiety. There's a rudimentary form of anxiety within me that has always been there, sort of a foundation that's, I've always been kind of anxious. But needless to say, anxiety was definitely intensified by my marijuana use. The story doesn't end there, though, because I developed a bit of an alcohol habit as well. Unlike most, I really didn't develop this habit, a strong alcohol habit, until I was actually 21. Not to say that I didn't drink before that, but it was not really my thing. I was always more of a smoker, and I was so proud of that. Because I do think smoking is better, but, that's neither here nor there. I started out just social drinking with friends. I had a 2 beer minimum, pretty standard. I love Blue Moon beer. I loved. And I enjoyed that, but it seemed like I couldn't get enough. And what started out as having a drink or two once a week turned into an almost everyday thing. How it escalated, I'm not really sure. I think when you're in the workforce, especially in the business that I was in, it's sort of a common thing to, drink, after a shift, or to drink often. And I think that drinking is too... I think that drinking is drawn up in this benign way that it sort of, takes away from the possible harm and dangers. Now, I'm not saying, drinking is bad in and of itself. I would say keep it at a moderate level, not to drink in excess, and to just sort of watch yourself. But then again, you're you and I'm me. My own experience, though, speaking on that, I watched myself become an everyday drinker. And when the beer no longer did the trick, without much thought, I switched over to drinking rum, liquor. And I'm talking, I would drink a liter of rum in a night. I would drink a pint in a night, and then drink more. I would, after I would finish my alcohol, I would raid the house and the liquor cabinet to find, it's weird to say this, but yeah, that was me for a while. And it, I wouldn't say it was every day, but it was definitely more often than it should have been. And this developed into a pretty bad habit. And one of the telltale signs of, the sort of effect that this was having on me is that I no longer wanted to drink with friends. I was drinking alone. I loved drinking alone, solitary. It felt great. I would listen to music. I would write poetry that I was so convinced was so much better, because of alcohol, which is plainly untrue. But I gave in to that sort of illusion that alcohol was making me a better writer and a more creative person. But I don't really think that that's very true, looking back on it. My drinking got bad, and I was still dealing with a lot of mental illness, OCD, anxiety, depression. And why I decided to drink more often, it's probably directly due to that. And I probably wanted to cover up some things with my drinking. If you're drinking the way that I was drinking, you're not just drinking to have a good time. I never thought, hey, I'm just going to have a good time. I thought, I need this. I need this emotional moment. I would make myself into an emotional person. But that's just, it's ridiculous and it's silly and it's totally unreasonable and unjustified. And I realize that now. I no longer drink. My path to sobriety, as far as the drinking piece goes, I drank until about March of 2017. I was sober until about August of 2017, where I made the decision to drink socially after that. And I was successful at it. I had a few times when I would go out with friends and I would have just one beer. I just had one beer. Or I'd watch a football game and I'd have one beer. And I kept reiterating to myself in my mind, it's like, Brian, you're doing good, man. Why not up the ante? Why don't you go pick up a bottle of rum and, be like you used to be? You were such a good drinker. But the thing is, what is a good drinker? There's no such thing as a good drinker. I can tell you this, while my friends or whoever I was with were drinking their alcohol and talking about everything or whatever was on their minds, it was on my mind. It was the next drink. Before I was even halfway done with my first, I was thinking about the next. I had an insatiable appetite, figuratively and physically, I would even say, that I wanted the next drink to be in my system. I wanted to drink. But the problem is, drinking and me do not mix. That is not a good relationship. It is nothing that will ever help me in my creative life, in my personal life, in my emotional, my spiritual existence was greatly hindered by having a drink. And by October, I was fed up and I was tired, and I just stopped thinking about it. And before I realized it, I had gone 2 or 3 months without drinking, and I no longer thought about it. And this is where I am today, guys, and I am fully committed to my sobriety. I feel like sobriety is really the only way that I will really get ahead in life. I feel like it's the only way for me to live out my total potential. I feel like I was meant to be a sober person. I think that I've already, I've experienced, what, having habits and dependencies can do. Why would I want to push the envelope and push the issue? I never want to be someone that has to drink to feel something. I never want to be the one that has to smoke again to feel like they're in a spiritual, far-out, creative place. Because the truth of the matter is, you can activate the same chemicals in your brain by doing things that you love, by meditation, by engaging in something positive and productive for yourself, and truly living out your own self and creating your own sort of high, so to speak. Now again, I'm not saying that sobriety is the way for anyone. I personally don't think it's a big deal if you smoke a little or you drink a little. But, I would say, in all honesty, please don't be like me and take it to that extreme. Don't blow it out of proportion like it's, like it's all or nothing, because it won't get you far. I had a lot of problems because of alcohol and smoking weed, and, after being sober now for a pretty long time, I feel like, I've garnered enough time that I can really see myself for who I am, and I'm no longer that person just hiding behind a bottle or a joint. And it's a great feeling to be sober, and I'm dedicated to sober life. And, I feel like we live up to our potential when we are, no longer immersed with these toxic things in our life. But like I said, there's many other dependency and addiction that goes far beyond simple drinking and drugging. So, my advice is to sort of clear yourself of the attachments and dependencies and try to live your own life. And try to do what's right for you and listen to your own intuition. And don't let any substance, anyone, or anything get in your way of you living your life exactly the way you want to live your life. Just love yourself and take care of yourself, my friends. I'm signing off. Thank you guys for tuning in to Soul Speak Visions. Peace, my friends.